Hey, everybody. I am Brian Wiedman. Thank you for joining us in the Gavel Strikes. And I have with me today
Rick Akers.
Akers, not Xavier Chavez. He's winging his way to Seattle right now. I think he's in the air. And as long as it doesn't come down in a fiery ball of
Don't
flames,
don't even say it.
no, it won't.
It's funny because like Dallas is typically pretty nice weather. We have nice
Oh,
sun,
yeah.
but we have a lot of rain and storms going on today, which Xavier is missing to go to lovely Seattle.
To then get rained on.
Exactly.
Because
Which I love Seattle.
it's green.
It's green,
It's green. It's
beautiful.
I love Mount Rainier.
Fresh air. I was just in Bellevue not that long ago for the Collectors Summit, and it was pretty great. I definitely enjoyed it.
The same one we had here, right?
Yes,
Same
yes.
put on by the same.
That's
I
right.
love that show. I swear I think that was I was asked the other day the best show I had ever been to as far as a convention.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, and I'm not saying this because it was here,
Right.
but I promise it was like the best comic show I've ever been to was the one we had here.
I agree. I tell you, if you have a chance to come to the Collectors Summit here in Heritage, we're going to do it again next year. And
We would be crazy not to.
it is amazing. I'm serious. It is so VIP, first class. Everything about it, amazing food trucks. I mean, we're talking about the night before night. People are walking around with hors d'oeuvres on trains.
It
I
was
mean,
crazy.
and the books were fantastic. There's so many great Golden Age books. Dealers coming out, bringing out some top-notch stuff.
And Silver Age too. So if you're into Silver Age, what you didn't see was the modern, $5, $1 books. It was all just top-notch stuff.
And
It was a pure comic convention. I loved it.
Do we have any cosplayers? I don't think.
No. Nobody dressed up.
So
That's okay.
Yeah, but hey, if you like to dress up, we'll welcome you still.
So we have a great show for you today. I kind of took over the artwork, not so much because I know anything about it, just because I like the stuff. I like to talk about it.
Yeah.
So I didn't do Xavier's normal. It's under $500. I just picked out some things that I thought were amazing, that you should really kind of pay attention to, just because I think it's fun. And then we'll do the artwork, and then Rick and I are going to kind of bounce between comics, and then he's got pulps at the end, and we've got a lot of stuff to go through today, which is fun because I actually have some stuff. Sometimes it's hard to pick out things. It's just kind of a normal week. We have a lot of Silver Age. Everybody's seen it before, but
this week
is ridiculous.
This weekly is just spectacular. I'm serious.
Ridiculous. And when I say that, I mean it really is, because just the stuff I brought, just the stuff you brought is beyond belief.
And we could have picked so many more.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing.
I don't think I brought any Silver Age. I mean, there's so much Silver Age. I mean, like there's like 3 Daredevil ones. It's a ridiculous sale this week.
Yeah,
it's got some crazy stuff. So do not miss it. The sale is, I think it's ha.com/122310, right?
That's correct.
Week 10?
Week 10.
Yeah. So you definitely will want to hit the sale. Take a look, because like I said, it's got some crazy stuff in it. And just some of the stuff that I brought and Rick brought. And then we're not even talking about the artwork here. That's still in 122309. Or no, I'm sorry, 322309.
322309. That's right.
It's a different sale. So
and
that
this
ends
animation
tonight.
stuff, you've been enjoying some animation.
I love animation. I love animation.
I like it too.
And while I'm not a fan of the Flintstones too much, I think it'd be cool to have a cool Flintstone cell, but I'm more into either like the Rogues Gallery, sort of thing, where I like Warner Brothers is really my jam. So if it's Bugs Bunny, Looney Tunes, Tiny Toons, Animaniacs, or Batman animated series, all that stuff is what I really like. But I brought this for a reason.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I brought this was because not only is it Fred Flintstone, but this kind of goes to the history. Comic books are very historical, especially when you get into the Golden and Silver Age. But so are cartoons. Cartoons were
Absolutely.
very to the day specific. And while people may, younger people may not get it, but you and I were around. This is a Fred Flintstone with Joan Rivers and Johnny Carson, and he's on the Johnny Carson show. And so that's kind of why I brought it, is while I may not like the Flintstones too much, I would die to have this cell. I mean, just the history of Johnny Carson and Joan Rivers being in the cell with Fred Flintstone.
I think Joan Rivers was the first woman that Johnny Carson had sub in for him, I believe.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I did not know that.
I mean, I'm only a few years older than you, but I do remember Joan Rivers subbing for Johnny Carson.
So can you bring up the listing on this? I'm curious to know. I did not look to see if it's just a production cell. I thought maybe it must have a printed background. We say printed background for presentation purposes. But if it was a key master or it was a master background or a key master. So let me get into kind of what that means. A master background means that it's a painted background. It goes with some episode, but not specifically with this cell. Okay. Key master background, however, means that the printed background or the painted background exactly matches the cell. And as you know, in American animation cells, the background is stationary and the foreground moves. So they will have hundreds of cells, but they'll still use the same background. And that's why it's very hard to get all of it together and why it's so much money if you have a key master setup. As opposed to like Japanese, it's the exact opposite. The background moves a lot, but then the foreground stays static, especially in action sequences.
See, and you were acting like you didn't know a whole
I really
lot
don't. I'm really faking it until I make it when it comes to talking about anime. I don't like it as much.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. I when I think about growing up, I'm 53, and I think about it would be really hard for me if you had to say what show did you spend the most time in your life watching. I mean, really, when you think about it, for me, it would probably be real close between the Flintstones and the Brady Bunch, because
really the Brady Bunch.
Every single Flintstones, Jetsons, Brady Bunch. The Family That Sang, the Partridge Family.
Oh yeah,
those were the shows that when I came home from school, I was a latchkey kid.
The Monkees was on.
The Monkees,
me.
yeah. When I was so
big fan of the Monkees.
I remember as a kid in the morning, I think it was Banana Splits.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So all those kind of things, but yeah, no, this
Hanna-Barbera had it all.
They did.
Hanna-Barbera had the best studio outside of Warner Brothers, in my opinion. I'm a big Warner Brothers fan. I'm not a Disney fan. So
see, I'm gonna have to say.
I know you. I know.
Disney's,
it's not for me because outside of the movies,
right?
They didn't have the serials on TV.
Yeah. Warner Brothers and Hanna-Barbera definitely had more production output for sure.
So if I had to get a cell, I might actually even look at going after this. I don't know what the bidding is on it.
It was low. It was like 45.
Oh yeah, I'll probably go after it at that point.
$46.
So if you guys want to knock me out of bidding, start bidding now. It's a good piece. It's unique. That's why I brought it along. I kind of really like it.
Yeah.
You know, I never usually bring things that I want to bid on because I don't want to set myself up for getting clobbered.
Hey, we got to let you guys know what the good stuff is. I brought one or two things like that myself, yes.
Listen, I can't afford even 1/10 of what we sell, so I bring good stuff regardless. That was a joke. I brought a Sergio Aragones piece. And I don't know if you realize how hard it is to get his stuff affordable. This was a playing card, I think, is what I saw. Cool. But this is a really cool piece. It's a trading card number 98, Mealtime Friends. And as you can see by the value, this is getting up there. And kind of the joke, the life raft joke, where the dog is thinking, of him on the platter, and he's thinking of the dog on the platter because they're starving out in the ocean. Dog's best friend. I'd jump into the ocean before I ever could do that. I love my dogs.
I've always loved our dogs too. But Gru, and so does he, obviously. But Gru the Wanderer. That's one of the few 80s titles I hung on to.
Really?
Yeah, I have.
Still?
Yeah,
and you won't let him go?
No, I just love him.
Which is funny because you kind of go through those phases. We've had this. We joke about it a little bit, but the truth is, you go through phases.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, there's different things like I've had interest in. I had tons of Planet comics. I loved all the sci-fi. I still have a lot of Baker. I did have a lot of Baker, and I've had different. Just move through different things I enjoy. I've had some timely, and various art, but Aragones' work for whatever reason. First of all, it's not well, his original artwork can be, but the comics aren't
Right.
expensive enough to make me feel tempted to move them.
I see.
But I also have memories of reading them and laughing.
Right.
I like the character. I liked a lot of the gags. And in terms of it's almost Schomburg-esque in terms of the amount of detail,
The amount of stuff he
the amount of
puts on,
stuff they'll
yeah.
put on a page.
Well, and you were really a huge Peanuts fan too. Like you're
I've always
a huge
been, yeah.
Peanuts.
And I've
fan.
only got one original left. Yeah.
And how many did you have at one point?
I've had,
Because you had
I've
lots.
had about 13.
I think we've talked about this.
Yeah, I've had a lot of Peanuts originals.
You've
But
had
I
lots.
only have one left, but I love Peanuts, and every auction there's at least one that I'm like, oh, but they good Peanuts stuff never goes cheap.
No.
Or
Even bad Peanuts stuff never goes cheap.
That's
It
right.
just goes for a lot.
Yeah, but
of
Schultz,
money.
there are certain ones. There was one recently where Linus and Charlie Brown were talking about a passage in the Bible that was really like, wow. I saw it.
That's pretty unusual.
It was
for them,
really
too.
cool. And it kind of went back and talked kind of about the Christmas story. And I was like, oh, I want that when I saw it. And I think it went for $250,000 or something like that. Or
Wow.
It went for.
Was it a Sunday?
It was a Sunday.
Oh, that's
it went
really-
for it was like a couple $100,000 or something. And I was like,
You could have sold your house.
well, my
In
wife,
your garage?
my wife would probably wouldn't appreciate us sitting outside under our.
If you
peanut
get
strip.
if you get a big enough like a refrigerator box, you can
Yeah.
even hang it inside the refrigerator box as you're going home at night.
Good point. Good point. But I wouldn't have to spend that much for this really sweet piece.
Well, you
Wow.
know, this is really cool. So this is one of those things. Xavier tries to bring a strip art once a week or once a show, and I when I saw this, I kind of went with him. And this is Buzz Sawyer strip. I went with his kind of way of thinking of you couldn't beg for better artwork, and you couldn't beg for. I mean, this is very Frazetta-esque, and it's not Frazetta. You've got the girl; she's very pretty. You've got the guy; he's very handsome. You got the boat. You've got everything along with it, and it doesn't really matter what the strip says. It's just how cool it is.
I even like the way he made the water like
Yeah,
splash
it's
up around it.
splashing up by using the whiteout or
Yeah.
just the negative space even.
Yeah.
So it's really amazing. There we go. That's probably a little bit better for you guys. So I mean, just all the detail in this is what kind of why I brought it, with, and it's 1954, so it's not exactly. A new strip, it's not very modern. It's 50, 60, 70 years old.
Just about 70 years old. Very
69, so it's amazing. And what's the value on that, Tommy?
I think I saw it was at 280.
No, it's more than that. It's got to be. Oh, it is 280, so that's not bad.
No,
and
that's
it's
really
Roy
not.
Crane, and man, I really like that piece.
I do too.
And I wonder if the girl's name is Lucy because the boat's name is Lucy.
See, I didn't even know this piece was up this week. So you've already got me interested now in this piece because
See, I'm telling you, and so we were kind of talking about it before the show. Me and Tommy and X and I will unveil a new section next time he's back. We were kind of playing with, updating what we do, not just always bringing stuff, but kind of trying to keep things new and fresh.
Yeah.
And one of the things we're thinking of doing is kind of going back and seeing, what the results were on something.
Oh, that's a neat idea.
It would be nice to see what that ends up at and how beautiful it is. Don't take my word for it. Look at the piece. If it speaks to you, if it's artwork and it speaks to you, even comic books, if it speaks to you, get it. You're not going to see another one like that ever. It's the only one. It's the only one that exists in that iteration.
it's pretty cool. And if you've ever had a girlfriend or a wife and went traipsing through the water towards your boat, you definitely need that.
Right.
Or if you've ever even thought about that.
I brought this piece. This is, and you'll have to forgive me. I'm not as good with art as Xavier, and I caught this is a heavy metal piece. I thought this was really neat, just because it is a very, very detailed piece. And who's the artist? It's Steep is Set, and it's Heavy Metal Volume 2, Number 5. So it's pretty early in the run, but you can kind of see the the insect and all this detail. But I brought this because just of the unbelievable detail and how long it took to do this piece. I mean, maybe Bissett, punched this out in a few hours or something like that. But look at all the detail in there and how he uses negative space or how he manifests what's going on that page. It really, it just blows my mind. I'm terrible. I can't draw stick figures. I've said this before. So it blows my mind when I see detailed pieces of art that I just like, you know.
That is pretty cool.
I'm not necessarily certain I would hang this on my wall. It's a little too horror-esque for that, or too buggy for me, but still, I really, really like it. It's very unique. I'm just blown away with that kind of detail. What about you? Because you like Snoopy a lot, so that doesn't have a lot of detail. But
this is not for me, but I appreciate it, and I get I look at the artwork and the way it's done, and it's in the detail as you get into these insects fighting, and what it says is talking about how it's our job to be fruitful and multiply,
right.
And then it says, because isn't there all space to fill at the bottom?
Right.
Like, to me, I'm like, okay, that's pretty clever.
It's clever. It's not something I would own, but it's
something that a lot of people out there would own.
Detail. It's a cool thing.
For sure.
Now you can barely see this. I can tell you can barely see this. I don't really get why you can barely see it. There we go. So let's see if we can get that in there.
I think it's just the way the light's hitting off.
It's the way the light's hitting off.
And it's also
the
thin,
the
it's
piece.
clean, real clean, thin line.
So maybe we should pull up the. There we go. That's much better. So this piece, I actually brought this into New York, the New York Comic Con from a client, and I was blown away. You don't get to see many, typically most people want to see the X-Men and they want to see, the X-Men themselves and everything, but you don't get many images with the Blackbird. The X-Men Blackbird is really cool. The amount of straight lines and the detail you need to make that plane look like the Blackbird blows my mind. And in this case, Havoc's blowing it up.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely stunning to me. When I saw this in person the first time, I knew it wasn't worth $1 million.
Right.
But when I looked at it and I went, oh my God, it's a double page splash. It's of the Blackbird. It's the X-Men's Blackbird. You've got the X logo there at the top, right above the middle windows, right where Tommy's pointing. You've got everything you could want about the Blackbird, and Havoc's blown it up. This piece is a really cool double page splash. And it's from X-Men 159, story page 2 and 3. And I see it, and every time I look at this, I get just blown away at how neat it is.
It's got a lot of fine line detail
in
the way that it's exploding, and the way the glass is shattering.
Look at all the shatter points just flying around here.
It makes you think about it for a minute. How long would they have to spend on this page?
I know.
This double
the concentric circles getting it perfectly. And then you've got this little X here, like the X-Men, and it blows me away that.
So right now it's at $130, which, feels like.
It's way undervalued compared to where it will end up.
Well, yeah, I know it's got the right group of people who are interested, but it's kind of like one of those things where if you had to pay a professional comic artist to do this exact image, they would be sitting there for hours upon hours.
They could never even get it close. They would miss all this detail. Yeah. It's insane. It's insane.
Really cool.
I love it. And like I said, I've loved this piece since the minute I saw it in New York. It's not mine. Not even going to be close, I bet you. But it's one of those things that I really think is absolutely amazing. Don't miss that. That will be tonight. So all these that I'm showing you are all going to be tonight, starting at 6 o'clock.
Wow.
And the sale is ha.com/322309. Got a few more though, and I think I've got 2 or 3 more. 3 more. I brought this one. This is Spectacular Spider-Man number 69. And I thought this was really neat. You only see Spidey in 1, 2, 3 panels. He's not in every panel. And we know that kind of makes the page much more valuable. You have a little bit of an overlay here of what they needed to do for art production purposes. However, It's got Cloak and Dagger in it. It's got Silvermane in it. And it's got all these images with them. And it's from Peter Parker 69. Well, their first appearance was 64.
Right.
So this is one of their early appearances, maybe even their second-ish appearance. I'm not sure if they were in 65.
I can't
and
remember.
then they hopped back. But I know they were in 64, and then they kind of came back. But being this early in the Cloak and Dagger run, that really makes this stand out. What's the value? Right now it's at $2,900.
So
Like
people,
I said,
so there are some people recognizing this is
everybody recognized. Obviously, I didn't bring it. I didn't bring it because of X usually keeps things under $500. I didn't bring it for that. I brought it because hey, this is a great piece.
You know what? It's a great piece, but it also shows you, and I wouldn't be surprised to see this go even higher than that.
Oh, I'm sure.
But it shows you that the weekly comic art auctions, just like our weekly comic auctions, stuff we're going to show you today in this weekly comic auction is stuff that would be in highlight auctions in many other places.
Every place. There is no way.
Yeah, but even with this, our weekly comic art auctions consistently have pieces they're selling for $5,000 and $10,000.
Yeah, we're kind of tooting our own horn here a little bit, but we're not trying to. We're not trying to be pretentious or anything like that. We're just saying it's amazing the stuff we get.
Yeah, that's right. And so what I want to say to you is if you've considered consigning and you think, oh, I don't know about the weekly auctions, I'm just trying to let you know
Right.
that the weekly auctions are absolutely rocking.
I tell my clients it doesn't matter anymore. The weekly auctions, the showcase auctions that you do, the signature sale, we get so many bidders all the time.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where they're at.
Right, and there's so many people who have want lists, and that's what I highly recommend. If there's things you're looking for, that you fill out a want list.
Absolutely. Yeah. So this is Hannigan, and I think it was who was the other? It was Milgram. Yeah, L. Milgram. So it was Ed Hannigan. Ed Hannigan did the cover to G.I. Joe 21, which is the Snake Eyes, that famous Snake Eyes cover that we sold. That was a great,
That was an amazing piece.
That was a great piece. But I would be begging. Now, I definitely can tell you I can't afford this. So you won't be fighting me at all for this. But I will be jealous. I would love to see that hanging on your wall. And I am sure Rick would too. So you can catch us on Instagram. If any of you guys get this, you can either hit Rick up at,
Rick's Neat Stuff.
Rick's Neat Stuff, or you can hit me up at Heritage Comics Grader. We would love to see that on your wall. We really would. Last two pieces, I brought a Werewolf by Night page. That's a weekly. Is a great page. And this has got, the werewolf in almost every panel. In fact, he is in every panel. He's being attacked, great action in every panel. I mean, there's 7 panels of pure action on this. And who's the artist? It's Don Perlin. It's not Plug, it's Perlin. And I mean, what more do you want?
That's fantastic.
You can't possibly ask for anything more in a Werewolf by Night
I
page.
love that upper right panel.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah, that's great too.
This is a great one. They're just all great.
That's a pretty amazing action page from that.
That's a great page.
I'm impressed with that.
What's it at, Tom?
It was only at 460, right?
460?
Seems really low.
That's got a lot of room. You're going to see that's going to be one that is going to change dramatically.
Yeah.
So I've had discussions with my clients. You don't want to be topped out by the time you hit the live auction, especially with comic books.
Right.
So if a book is worth $5,000, the last thing you want is for it to be $5,000 going into the live part, because then it just sits there. Yeah. But art is different. It can kind of go wherever it's going to go. Right. And then when it goes live, it's really just dependent on who wants it more. Yeah. Because it's one of a kind. And
so many people are using the proxy bids now. We have these amazing thing where you basically it's I wouldn't call it a snipe, but it basically will put in a bid for you, like at the time of the live auction, and you can go right in there and set proxy bids. And that's how I do most of my bidding, was with proxy bids. Right. And so you're seeing more and more, especially in the comic auctions, but they're sitting lower than they used to before the live auction, but they're pop, because there'll be 4, 5, 6 people who have proxy bids in.
I equate it, especially with my clients, to playing cards. Most of you don't know, but I used to be a professional poker dealer, and the last thing you want is everybody knowing what you have in your hand.
Right.
And so you put the proxy bid in, that does not execute until it goes live. Right. Now, other people will bid, during the week, and that's kind of, I don't know why people do that. I've never figured it out, because I would never want people to know my bids.
I think for some people, what they're trying to do is say, stay away, don't get interested.
That could be.
I'm already showing you that this is going to be at this value, so just move on to something else.
Yeah, that could be. It's a different way of playing cards. It's kind of showing what you have to try and bluff. But to me, I'd rather put my stuff in last minute, not necessarily sniping, because we have the system. We're not eBay. We don't count down. We count up. Right. So every time a bid comes in, we reset. And so when we reset, it doesn't matter if you wait till the last utmost second, you're still resetting the clock. It's going to go on. So I always tell people, don't do that. It just drags things out unnecessarily. If you want it, bid on it.
Yeah, if you want to bid, don't go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 bid. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 bid.
It's just going to keep going.
It'll keep going.
It'll keep going.
Nobody's going to give up in that 15 seconds.
Yeah. So that piece is going to be great. I can't wait to see. That'll be one of those I kind of want to really know next week or the week after what it went for, because if it could easily go over 1,000. It could easily go for over 2,000. It could stay at $460.
Gosh, I really feel pretty confident it'll go over 1,000.
Not if you want a great Werewolf by Night page. I would be shocked if it stays there.
Yeah, I agree.
So the last art piece I brought was this great Batman Dead Man page. It's airbrush painted. It is really cool. It's from Batman Dead Man from page 38. It is really cool. I don't know who the artist is. Tommy, can you tell me who the artist is? John Estes. And it's from Dead Man, Death and Glory story, page 38. From 1996. This is a great page because it's got all the color with it.
Yeah, great color.
Just a great, and it's even got this snazzy overlay. I'm not a big fan of these these kinds of overlays where you can't see the piece, even though you've got the the word bubbles and everything, great, but you don't get to see the piece through it. I'd love to be able to see the piece there.
But that piece without the overlay, that would look pretty good on somebody's comic room wall.
Yeah, I wouldn't be. And what's that at? That's not very.
It wasn't
it's
that
only
high.
At 550.
550.
Again, I think you're going to see a lot of change in a lot of this artwork, because it's some really, really good items this week. Just really good. Sorry, some great items this week as far as art goes.
Yeah, there absolutely is. And there's some great comic books. I'll show a couple of those. Yeah. So this week on HA.com, 122310, I'm just going to show you a few, and I know Brian has a lot more, but this one I'm going to show you here is Wonder Comics.
Here, put it here.
Oh, yeah, put it right there. That's
because we have the secondary camera from. See, a new change since you came in.
Yeah.
We have a secondary camera that then can zoom in.
That's
on
great.
that. See, there we go, just like that.
Wonderful, I love it. Wonder Comics number 11.
The things we do for you guys.
We're all about you, and so is Graham Ingalls.
Graham Ingalls is.
He's all about you because he made this awesome artwork on the cover here. And Wonder Comics, this series, I can't remember, but I think, is it 11? 11 kind of begins, 10 or 11, begins some of the more like kind of sci-fi-ish covers. And I've had all these, and I've had some real nice copies of this 11 before. But this book is pretty sweet. Schomburg starts doing a lot of the run after this.
He does the airbrush.
He does some great airbrush covers on the Wonder Comics run.
And I've said this multiple times on the show, that I'm a big fan of the Neater or the Better or the Pines, that publication.
Absolutely.
They're all the same thing. They just changed names. Amazing stuff.
They're great. What am I thinking of here? Exciting Comics.
Yeah.
All that run is just awesome. And so this one here, are you able to pull up where we're at on Wonder Comics 11?
I think it was,
470. Yeah, that's still pretty low for a nice 6.5. But you got this. Yeah, it's just such a great book. You got the guy is wrestling with this dragon-like creature and the damsel in distress. And Ingalls does a great job showing that. So I just
and
definitely
you
wanna
just
look at
got done having a showcase auction with the Nidor stuff, right?
Yeah, we just had a Better Nidor Pines showcase.
How'd that go?
Pretty good. Here's the thing. A lot of the things that we had in there were like kind of starter level copies. There was a few really higher grade ones, but a lot of it was in the VG range. There was a lot of raw, uncertified books, and it went pretty well. There were a few great Hitler covers and things that really performed very well.
But you also had the first Black Terror in there, the first Fighting Yank in
Exciting
there.
9, yeah.
Yeah, you had some great books, because I brought those and I actually showed them up 2 weeks ago that I
great.
brought them with.
Awesome.
Just amazing, amazing books.
They are amazing. And it's kind of, I have to say that I think those books still are actually a little under the radar even now.
Oh, absolutely. And Exciting 9 is a tough book. It's not an easy book to find by any means whatsoever.
I agree. And and they had such great artwork. And just like here, where you have this Alvison cover for Captain America 17. This is kind of Bucky Buried Alive cover. And I the ones where they had the black header, I mean, those are pretty cool. And I think this is this is 1942, August of 1942, right in the war effort time. They kind of have a little bit of escapism here with kind of a little bit of a horror theme on this.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I've actually brought a book, I think this book before,
Really?
because I'm a big fan of the pre-code horror look.
Yeah.
Or I've shown it off on Instagram, whichever one I've done. But I've seen it, I've had it before, and I like it a lot because of that. It's got that pre-code horror vibe to it.
It does.
Before pre-code horror was a thing.
Absolutely. So, I mean, yeah, these timelies from the early 40s.
They're tough.
They're tough, and there's a lot of people interested in them. They have a wide collecting base, and so and what's really great is when you get one of these, where you can hold it and read it, the interiors are really good too.
Yeah.
Excellent
Which isn't
books.
common, by the way. A lot of these have been slabbed, even in 1.0 and 1.5 shape.
So here is a book that is kind of amazing. Like, I know you've
This is
got
in a
one.
weekly sale.
In a weekly sale, and I know you have one coming up.
I have one at the end of what I'm going to show.
Holy man!
I can't believe this book is in a weekly sale.
I mean, Action Comics number 4.
In a weekly sale.
In a weekly CGC 2.0 white pages.
White pages?
White pages.
That is not.
Yes.
That's a lie.
No, it is. And it's $675 right now. I'm sorry. I'm getting a little bit emotional because I think that I'm going to have to jump in there because this book, this fourth appearance of Superman. First of all, there's only. I want you to think about this. I mean, I have to assume that there are a lot of people with proxy bids.
Oh, that's the only way it is.
Because this is the fourth appearance of Superman. It's white pages. There's only 24 blue labels on the census. So there's
a lot of proxy bids. So, by the way, I would like to make sure everybody understands this. When we say we're going to bid, we're bidding not to shill bid. We're bidding to own these. We would easily pay for these books.
We're a company of collectors, and so
we're
people here,
crazy lunatics.
we don't have that's it. We're not. It's I would love to have that book. It is freaking awesome.
I would sell your soul to have that book.
You'd sell my soul?
Yeah, I
Okay.
wouldn't sell mine.
Well, I would sell your soul to have the next one. Actually, I don't know. It'd be tough.
I'm a big
not sure.
fan of timely stuff,
Yeah,
so it's
yeah.
really hard for me to say.
That's a tough pick between these two.
That doesn't have a Superman cover.
No, but
This is a cool book.
Marvel Mystery number 10. This is the second part of the battle between Human Torch and Submariner. Schomburg cover, World War II. I mean,
I don't know. I'm kind of going your way. I'd probably sell yours. I don't know. I want them both. I'll just sell your soul for both of them.
I can understand that. That totally makes sense to me. And this book is number 96 on Overstreet's Top 100 Golden Age.
Is it really?
And look how the color
It's
on this.
clear.
Look, I want you to just get a sense of how deep that red is. I mean, I'll be honest with you. We sent this in raw, and we thought I was pretty sure it was going to be a 6. And so it's just a absolutely gorgeous copy. And so if this is something on your radar, this is a...
How many higher graded are there at a 5.0, Tommy? I'm just curious. There are 30 higher, I think that's what it said. Yeah. So, I mean...
How many are on the census altogether?
58. 58 blue copies.
Yeah. I mean, it's a valuable book, and it's a important book. And I think that this is one that anybody would want to have in their collection for sure.
And it's in a weekly sale.
Yeah, it's in a weekly sale.
It's funny because I was going through, and I think I could have brought 40 books in this sale. Because typically when I pull, I start at the A's and then I go through the list and I start pulling books, and I never get to X because it's always X-Men.
Well, nobody ever gets to X. That's why he's in Seattle.
Right, nobody gets there. That's great. Yeah. I like that. Good.
That's what we call Xavier around here. It's X.
We call him X. But I never really get to the X, and there's usually never a zip or something like that, or a zoot. So I don't typically bring those books with. I think I stopped at, I don't know, G today, this week, because I had so many already that were just great books. And then I'm trying to figure out, I should go further in the alphabet, trying to bring some. There's really a lot of books this week. I mean, crazy, crazy books. One of the first ones that I brought is this little thing. This is a Donald Duck. This is a giveaway. It's a promotional giveaway. It's got a little tear on the back, so I got to be careful. So it's a Cheerios giveaway, and this is one of the. It's the Atomic Bomb. It's the classic Donald Duck Atomic Bomb promotional giveaway. This is at $11, and I guarantee there are a lot of proxy bids on this because this item will never be reprinted by Disney. They've made a statement of fact they will never reprint it. Mm-hmm. It's about the atomic bomb. Donald looks a little evil, mad scientist-ish, and we don't get them that often. I mean,
no, that doesn't fit with the brand.
Don't get them very often. So this is one of your only chances to get it because I see these maybe once every 2 years. Can you flip to the back there? Yeah, so it's got a little tear there at the bottom, but it's a beautiful, beautiful copy.
Yeah, it looks really good other than that.
It's clean. So I can only imagine these are really being, like you said, proxy bids. Proxy bids are a big deal. Don't show your hand. Don't show people what you're going to do. And that's kind of the theme of these next two books. I couldn't believe it. I never see Detective Comics right around 100. Never. And we have 3 or 4 of them this time.
Yeah, they don't come in
so I brought 106 and 111 just because we never, ever get them. You might see, I don't know, 50 to 75 or 75 to 100 here and there, but you never see 100 to 125.
Yeah.
You might never see 75 to 100, and you see a couple around there, here and there. But just even the filler run books, you never ever see them. Look at how beautiful these colors are. In both books, you have a black cover that'll show up every flaw, and look how clean it is. These are in the weekly sale. It's stunning to me.
What is that?
That one's at $52, but remember these started today.
Okay, these just
started. This started. Well, it started yesterday.
Wow,
so we still have a full week.
We were grading tightly too, because I'm looking at that as a VG fine, or the other one is a VG fine. The 111. It is.
Well, this one has a subscription crease along the front of it.
Yeah.
And you've got a long crease.
Oh, I see. This one has
you can't see.
Okay.
So,
but they're probably strict VG fines.
Yeah, but they're beautiful VG fines.
They really are.
They're
great.
Gorgeous.
Wow.
So when we look at the values on these, that's because we have a full week to go.
Right.
They won't start until Sunday, Monday. Go in where they're supposed to go.
Yeah.
But boy, this week is huge.
That 111 cover, boy, it's
amazing.
It's really cool.
You just never see them. I wonder what the census. Can you show the census on these? I'm curious to know exactly how many are graded. There can't be a ton. So there's 97 111s.
Okay.
How many are on the 106? There's 53, which is really low.
That is really low.
For a what 1940 something book. That's pretty low.
That's very low for a major hero DC
Yeah,
from that time.
1945.
Yeah,
So that's pretty amazing. I guarantee you those have a lot of room to go.
they're pretty cool.
So,
Ooh,
I love pre-code horror, so I got to bring pre-code. I think I bring a pre-code horror book every time. I brought this Adventure into Darkness 13. All the Adventure into Darkness books are almost all black covers. The Unseen, this is a standard publication, standard comics, and I will make the argument that Magazine Enterprises standard comics are some of the rarest books around,
Man,
especially when it comes to pre-code horror.
that is incredibly deep black on
Yeah.
that. I mean, really.
It's kind of why I
really
brought it. It's really, really beautiful. They just don't come about, and when they do come about, they're usually raggedy because of these black covers. You usually don't get them in this kind of color.
This must have like, is there something going on with the back
There's
cover or spine split?
If you look on front, I think there's a really light subscription crease.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Wow, that is a very, very light sub crease, and that book looks like a 7.5 with a light sub crease.
Yeah, it's a beautiful book. I'm very happy to see that in a sale. I know a bunch of people who will be going crazy for that. It's not going to be me because I'm not even going to chance.
Yes.
So when I first started Heritage, I hated Archie. Hated, loathed him. And that was because I had no clue about him. He is this is one of the best runs you could ever hope. The first 50 issues, first of all, it'll probably be the hardest 50 issues aside from like Catman or something like that.
Yeah.
His first 50 issues you're going to pay dearly for. You're going to have a hard time finding anything above a 4, and they're rare. They have great innuendo covers. They have great sarcasm. They have great humor. Everything about a teenager is in that book.
I am a pretty big fan. I've surprisingly had just about every Archie between 2 and 100.
Really?
I never had a 1. I just never had
Never
one.
gotten one.
Never got one. But I used to have the highest graded copy of this.
Really?
And I really love 13. The beginning of the love triangle covers.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
This is an absolute burner. This book is awesome. I can't believe it's in a week. Again, this isn't a weekly. Yes, this isn't going to be nearly as valuable as some of the other books that we're showing you.
Sure.
It still doesn't matter. That's a great book to have,
it
and
is.
it really stands out.
It is.
I have to do the weekly. I have to do the newsletter this week. I'm gonna have a hard time picking out.
You really are, for
I'm
sure.
gonna have a hard time picking out items. They're all good. Now this is I brought it for you.
Yeah, clairvoyant.
I'm a big Baker fan too, but I never knew Baker was the artist on these.
Well,
I just liked them for the covers when I went through
I think this is a Kamen cover, but
it's not a Baker cover.
Yeah, but I mean, they worked together, and I think that they borrowed from each other from time to time. So, yeah, this is a Kamen cover.
I wouldn't have even known. That's how close it is to me.
Yeah.
Now, Baker's a little more refined, I guess.
Yeah, he's a little bit more detailed, but they did some work. I've had pages from them where they did, where one did the inks and one did the pencils, and so
okay, that makes sense.
But no, clairvoyant number 2, great red dress cover.
But the number 3 is a Baker, right? That's the one with the crystal ball guy, or is that the one with the?
I don't recall that. That was I know Baker has done. I think he did some work on it, but I don't think so.
Oh, now I'm gonna have to look.
Yeah, we have to double check that. My most of my Bakers I've had have been some of the Fox books and the St. John books.
Okay.
Yeah, but this is still a great GGA book.
Now we've got a Clairvoyant 3 up. I'm curious to know, what does that say? Can you pull that link up?
See, there's so much.
That's a cover by Jack Kamen. So
Yeah.
no, you're right.
Yeah.
That's.
Yeah, I think that so much of the Iger studio. I mean,
I'll be darned.
So what I've heard so much about from different people who worked at Iger, and who have done interviews later, that there was a lot of times where they were very collaborative with their work. So literally to the point where Kamen could have been working on this and been like, "Oh, can you do the dress mat I mean,
Right.
that would be the kind of thing that they are, there are Baker women on covers that other people did and things like that.
Right.
So they did a lot of collaboration. But
That's why I brought Rick along. He knows Baker very, very well.
pretty well.
Pretty well. You're probably one of the foremost
No,
experts.
no. But I have access to the foremost experts.
That helps too.
Yeah.
The reason I brought the clairvoyant is because when I first got my first Gerber photojournals back 25, 30 years ago, the first thing I went through was writing down all the books I wanted.
Yeah, me
the
too.
The clairvoyants were on them.
I did the same thing.
I always thought the clairvoyants were some of the hardest but the coolest ones to get.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought they were Baker. I know he did Phantom Lady, right? A Phantom Lady.
He did
is
Phantom
Baker.
Lady. Yes, but he didn't do all the covers.
No, like he didn't do the first one, which
He did do the first one.
He did 13.
He did 13 for sure. 15, the one, I think the one where she's on the boat, he definitely didn't do.
Oh.
And 23 is probably Kamen, but it might be a little bit of Baker. The 23 is very debated, but it's
That's funny because that's
people,
my favorite one.
Well, 23 stands out.
I like that one.
It's pretty good.
I like that.
I
better
like
than-
18. 18's my favorite.
I like that better than the 17. I like the 23 better than the 17.
And the 17's always debated, but I mean it's Baker, but people have different views of it.
And this is why we like comics. We can talk about them until the cows come home.
For sure.
By the way, if you guys have any questions, feel free to chime in, or even comments. We like talking to you guys. What do you think of CGC single pages? Do you want to answer this one?
At first, I thought it was absolutely crazy. When I first started seeing single pages, I was like, "Oh my gosh, what has the world come to?"
Fred, thanks for asking.
Yeah, thank you. But now, I mean, honestly, I'm kind of like them better than I did initially. Like, especially like when you see like a Batman one page where the Joker's on there, you're like, you know what? This is an opportunity to own a piece of history for 1/100th of what it would have been to buy the book, and you get to see what's actually going on the inside of the book of the story. So at first I was kind of like, wasn't that into it, but now I'm starting to see it as kind of its own expression, its own interest. So I'm not against it.
I personally hate it. I loathe it because the concept of destroying a book for a single page,
it
makes me ill. It literally makes me sick to my stomach. So
I hear what
now,
you're saying with that.
If it was already split because it's brittle, okay, I'm there. But to take a coverless copy and split it up into individual pages, we're supposed to be preserving these, not destroying the books. And single, you see that a lot. I don't like that at all. Yeah. I really, really, really dislike it because a lot of people, if you take, for example, if you take a Detective 27, okay, the most important part is the Batman story. Now, there are stories out there that were only just the 4 books, or the 4 pages, or 8 pages total, right? And people will split them to make more money on each individual pages. I loathe that idea. I think keeping it together is the most important thing.
I see what you're saying there.
Hope that answered your question. What was the other question? You guys ever order X specs from the back of the comic book? I swear to God, I've always wanted the sea monkeys. I always wanted the X-ray specs. I never did though.
I ordered the 7-foot. Well, I mean, I'm old, so this would have been the 70s.
So am I.
Okay,
you're only 2 years older than me.
This would have been like reading a 1976 Hulk or something, and I ordered the 7-foot tall Frankenstein. For $1, but it never came.
Oh no!
Back then, you literally send the $1,
and $1 was a big deal.
You would put the $1 in the mail, and send for that. So I ordered it, and it never showed up.
That's a bummer.
I wanted the sea monkeys pretty bad. Oh wait, no, I did get the sea monkeys. Did
you?
Yes, I actually did get the sea monkeys. I forgot about that.
That's awesome.
No, a little bit later, like 80 maybe or whatever.
I always wanted to, but my parents would never let me do it. If it's at $550, doesn't that mean it's really at $1150 with the $600 PP? I hope you're being a little facetious. So look at the BP like this. The BP keeps our salaries, keeps all this cool thing running, this whole building, the books, the website, everything that we do for you is the BP. The seller's fee is our profit. We are a business to make money. It's just that simple. Just like anybody else, we are a business. We do have to make profit. But the BP is way more. Now, listen. Before I worked here, I was the person crying about the BP. I really was.
I kind of was too, and I bought a lot of stuff here before I worked here, quite a bit, and I sold stuff here before I worked here. And first of all, at 550, the total is only 660. There's only 20% BP, so it's 110.
They know.
But I was the same person where I was like, oh man. And once I got here and I saw all that we do here and all the marketing and advertising and effort that goes into everything here, I'm like, how do they even make it on that? I mean, it's so much. There's so much that goes into getting this out here. When you send us a consignment, I mean, there's like 27 different people who their hands go through to like handle and manage this and put it out. So
I have listed for a client before who was yelling about the BP, how many people touch that book. Okay, just that book. Now this, a raw book. Let's take the Detective Comics and we're going to send it to CGC. I get it in. The shipper that brought it in has to hand it to me. I then have to decide that it needs to go to CGC. The CGC that book needs to then go to Ops, and Ops needs to send it out, which means it needs to be shipped. So that's 4 people now who have touched the book. Once it comes back, it needs to be.
Did you get the shipper in there? The person packing it and shipping? Okay.
Yeah, so that's shipping. So then when it comes back, shipping again needs to touch the book. Then it needs to go to Ops to check in to make sure that it was accurate. It then needs to go to me. Now that's 8. That's 8 times we've touched the book before we've even gotten it into an auction.
Or photographed it or anything.
Before we've done anything. That's just getting it back from CGC. Then I need to schedule it for an auction. Okay, so I'm still touching the book. It needs to go back to Ops to enter into the auction. Then when it gets entered into the auction, it needs to go get photographed by a photography person. It needs to be described. Now we're at 10, okay? And this seems convoluted. It seems like, why are you touching it so many times? That's literally the auction process. Yeah. Everybody who does who does an auction does it like this.
There's a lot of safeguards in place to make sure everything. It's
right.
It's literally like a Swiss watch in terms of how it moves through all these different mechanisms.
So now we've scheduled it for the auction. It now goes to Ops and they put it in the vault until the time of the auction.
Once it goes, you didn't mention cataloging yet.
I did. I said descriptions.
Okay. Descriptions.
So once that happens, and once it sells, the person pulls it, okay? They pull the invoices, then they pull the item from the vault. It then goes to Ops to be verified to make sure it's the right thing, and then it goes to shippers to send out. So I'm at 14 times we've touched the book. 14. That's about as accurate as I can be. So you can imagine how much labor goes into selling one book, and we sell thousands a week.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Thousands.
But we appreciate your business, and I know.
And I appreciate it. And I'm not, believe me, I'm not yelling at you. I'm not jumping on you at any. I am trying to make you understand, really, because I was in your shoes. I never bought from Heritage prior to working here because of the BP. I never did. I was afraid to spend the extra 20% because I couldn't rationalize it.
I think most people calculate that into their cost.
In Golden Age, not a chance.
Well, I did. But I will say this, Blue Bolt 108 Golden Age, LB Cole, don't sleep on this cover. I mean, that
because it's a Blue Bolt.
Yeah, a black cover Blue Bolt.
But. So, Kelly, I got to be honest with you. Believe me, I get it, but it's expensive to do this. It's way more expensive you could possibly know. I mean, the amount of advertising we do for something like a Detective Comics 27 is beyond belief. The amount of money we pour into doing this just the right way.
There's a reason why Heritage tends to get the best prices on these top things, and it's because of a world-class website, trying to push ahead with service and marketing and efforts, and all these things, and having people like Brian here, to tell you about it. It's
Or
all
we
good.
or we fly out. We have to fly out a lot of times.
yeah.
That all is part and parcel. The Blue Bolt 108. I'm a big fan of the whole Blue Bolt Weird Tales run. And LB Cole did a lot, almost all of them.
Yeah.
And I wish I could own them. Now it's way too late for me to own them unless I really start planning on them. Because that's 550 after a day. Imagine what it's going to go to now.
Sure.
And so it's got a classic cover. It's LB Cole. It's a sci-fi. It's a black cover, which, as we know, if you've listened to me before, black covers show up every single flaw, no matter what. And so this book is going to be hard to get. I can't wait to see what this does.
It's really cool.
Whoever's going to own this, I don't even buy comics anymore, and I'm jealous. I'm jealous
Yeah.
of this book.
Yeah, I am too. That's pretty sweet.
I'm jealous. By the way, this has Newton rings on it. If you ever see this, I don't know, is there a way for me? There's probably not a way for me to get really close, but these, if the book ever looks, I'm not sure if they will show it in the photo here. But if Tommy, go back to me here. So if you were to hold this book like I'm holding it, you see this book looks wet. And so what that is there's no oil here, there's no humidity. What it is they have an inner plastic well, and it's a phenomenon that Isaac Newton actually found, that if you take a piece of plastic and you move it to another one, the light will reflect around it. It gives this oil-like shape. So CGC has tried to work very well as to not getting Newton rings in their books, but this one for some reason has it. I haven't seen one in a while that has had
Yeah, we haven't had
Newton
that.
rings. So they seem to have solved the problem. So that must be an older iteration of the book.
You know how I had the Action #4 and the Marvel Mystery #10. This is another book that I can't believe is in a weekly auction.
This book is usually only reserved for a showcase, for a signature sale. But we have a Captain Marvel Adventures No Number, which is really the #1. Now this is a restored book. The restoration, front and back cover reattached with glue. Okay, so it was split and detached at some point. So somebody glued it back together. Great. That's in a weekly sale. That would usually only be reserved for signature sales, no matter what. It wouldn't matter what grade coverless would go for a signature sale. I just cannot believe this book is in the weekly sale. I'm stunned.
It could be a real opportunity. I mean, gosh, it's only sitting under $1,000 right now.
Yeah, but again, it's a day old.
I know.
$1,000 day old. That'd be like me, bidding on the Action 1 in the signature sale on the first hour.
Well, we're going to switch up gears a little bit just to show you an auction that's coming. It's tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night it ends.
It ends tomorrow night. So HA.com 47152.
You got to do the /. Don't forget the /.
Yeah, HA.com /47152. We have the science fiction and mystery auction featuring the Jack and Joni Kump collection, which is an
All
amazing.
pulps, right?
All pulps. So these are pulp magazines. And this one here, this is Marvel Stories, November 1940. There's some story illustrations in here by Simon and Kirby. There's a full-page ad in here for Marvel Mystery Comics. There's actually a one-page Human Torch story in here that is, it's pretty incredible. And what a cover! I mean, this thing has.
And what kind of grade? Now pulps go by a different grading system. This is completely different than comics.
It's somewhat similar, but I would say,
You don't get into the very fine range very often.
not very. When you talk about pulps from pre-World War II, it's extremely difficult to get into VF range.
So if you have a fine in a pulp, it's like a very fine near mint almost.
When you talk about the ones in the 30s, yeah, and as you get into the mid 40s and later, that you can get into some more VFs.
Okay.
And I have seen some VFs in the 30s, but it's super rare. But this book is fantastic, and it's one of the books that's featured in the auction tomorrow night. And I've got two more to show you.
Well, tell us a little bit about pulps in general. Why are they so undervalued? Well, we've come a long way in the last few years. But if you would have been looking at that book 5 years ago, 10 years ago, it might be worth $50. It was never something. Pulps were never this important until now.
Well, I would say that like certain pulps had value even back in the early 2000s and late 90s and stuff.
Sure, if you're
like
talking about
spicy mysteries and stuff like that.
Sure.
But yeah, no, there's been a definite rise in interest the last few years. You know, we have seen, I think what we've seen is that the golden age comic market has become significantly more cover centric. So for the longest time, pulp valuations in the pulp community were often based on the literary merit of the pulps, you know, maybe the authors or the stories that were told, with covers being, you know, interesting but somewhat secondary, with the exception of the spices. And what I think has happened is as the comic community has really embraced, you know, pre-code horror and good girl art and all these kinds of things, that and that you have books like Phantom Lady 17 and Punch Comics 12.
Very, very centered on the covers themselves.
Yeah, so it's a natural progression because pulps are kind of like those comics on steroids. Now here is another pretty amazing pulp. This is from 1916, December 1916, Illustrated World. And this is a Chester Lawrence robot cover, I mean, from 1916. So this is at $360 right now. I think the last copy we had was in a similar grade. It went for like $1,600 or $1,900. And so this is a pretty sweet early pulp. When you start talking about pulps that are from the you know, the teens, you know, and the 20s, these are really early. And as pulps continue to get more interest, and one of the reasons they're continuing to get more interest, is CGC has plans to grade them.
That'll be a big deal.
Yeah,
That'll be a huge deal.
it will.
Now, if you guys remember back, do you remember Back to the Future? When he first goes back, and he's got the radiation suit on, and he gets out of the car, Marty McFly.
Yeah.
The kid's reading a pulp. And I don't know if you
I
guys
didn't
know
know
this,
that.
but a lot of science fiction and a lot of the ideas come from pulps. I mean,
Absolutely.
landing on the moon was a pulp idea long before it was a comic idea. You know, that's where this stuff comes from. It's amazing.
This one I'm not going to sit on there. I am going to hold this because it's
Yeah,
just,
we're a little bit afraid of this.
it's just
one.
too. It's in great shape, but it's just a little bit too valuable. I just don't want to like. This is. There we go. I'll try to get it positioned right. This is the Thrill book from October.
There you go.
Yeah, October 1st, 1919. This is a really nice copy. It's in like VG fine.
Yeah, the last time I saw this book, it was ratty.
This, we've only ever had one other copy. It was a Fair to Good years ago.
That was one I brought in.
Yeah, and this one here is just, it's got a really clean spine.
Which is very unusual, by the way.
Very unusual, and it's pretty nice. This is a really nice copy. And this cover is done by Sidney Riesenberg. And this cover was swiped and used for the Shadow #1. And you see there, that's the copy we sold for $156,000. And that image was pulled from the Thrill book from 1919.
So is it the same image, or did they repaint it or they just repaint the background of the Shadow one? Like, I mean, so did they really? Is it the same exact painting? I'm curious.
Pull that Shadow one back up. I mean, yeah, they've obviously done some modification to it, but not much. It's pretty much.
Yeah, it looks really close.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
But that is a very historically important book, and it may very well be the best copy in existence. I'm not making that claim. I'm saying
You've seen a lot of pulps, though.
I've seen a lot of pulps. I don't know of anybody who's told me, oh, I've seen one nicer than that, and people who are interested. So it's a pretty special book, and it's in tomorrow night's auction, and I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
So help me out here with the pulps and the overhang. What's up with the overhang? They made it that way on purpose, but how does that go into grading?
Well, I just talked to CGC a lot about this recently, and the overhangs, the way pulps were made, the covers actually overhang the paper by, anywhere from.
And you can see it on this current book that Rick was showing by quite a bit.
Yeah, they can overhang by as much as
eighth of an inch,
quarter inch,
almost
yeah.
quarter inch.
Yeah, but and a lot of times it's just like a little sliver overhang. But the overhangs always get bent over. They always get little frays and things. They're just sometimes they get chipped. So the overhangs are not going to be graded very harshly. I mean, there might be some. There's going to be very minor. Like if you had a book that outside of the overhangs was a very fine book. I mean, maybe, and it had some overhang chips and some overhang tears. I'm getting the impression when I've talked to them that it's going to be maybe a half point, maybe a point. It's not going to be a significant.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Because that's a significant big deal, because if that, and not a purple label, right?
No, definitely not.
That is a big deal, because you can't trim a comic book.
There won't be purple labels for. I mean, if it's trimmed, now if the overhang is trimmed, it won't get a purple label, but it will be noted that it's trimmed.
That's a big deal.
It is
Huge.
Yeah. So I'm not sitting here saying this as like an advisor, except for to say that the pulp magazines have definitely.
They're going to hit their stride.
Yeah, there seems to be a growing interest in them.
Yeah.
And now that we have CGC getting into the mix with them, I think it's going to give more people more confidence to buy, feeling like what they're buying they know is not restored.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult right now for even us to tell you there's a page missing internally, or that it's not been trimmed, because we don't know for sure if certain books were created that way versus not being created that way all the time. I don't, but you might.
Yeah,
you've done a little bit more than I have.
Yeah, we've come a lot further in knowing what was factory trimmed and what wasn't.
Right.
I think that there are. When somebody does some of these older pulps, they could have a very small trim, but you pretty much can tell when they're trimmed. I mean, they weren't doing it in an extremely sophisticated manner for the most part. Sometimes you'll see a pulp where it looks like it's trimmed on the top or trimmed on the bottom, but it's really not.
That's the other problem, yeah.
Yeah,
the glue set is wrong.
Exactly, and so it might have a little more overhang on one side than the other. But we have a lot of pulps coming up, and this I've been putting together pulp auctions. That's sort of me. So if you want to deal with pulps, ricka@ha.com. That's my thing, and we are really growing that area. We have a lot of auctions. There's a bunch of showcase auctions. We just did the Good Girl Art one. Tomorrow night's the science fiction and mystery. The next one is detective, and it's going to be...
That'll be a big deal.
It's going to be really... this is science fiction and fantasy. Detective and mystery will be the next one, and that's going to be...
That's going to be a big one.
It's going to be very
And you're
big.
having a lot of those this year, right?
We have 10 of them.
Huge collection.
We have 10 of them altogether.
Yeah, that's going to be a big deal. So guys, stay tuned. Any other questions out there for us? Rick, thanks for coming. I've got some valuable comics from the Copper Age. It sounds like I won't be able to get them into auction for months. Honestly, Kelly, that is incredibly true. Unfortunately, when it comes to CGC books, I can actually take those in my hand. If I got them today, which I showed, I just got 3 boxes today, I work 8 weeks ahead. So 8 weeks from now is the earliest auction that is available for me to get a slabbed comic into. If, however, I have to sit down and I have to grade the book or determine if it needs to go off to CGC, that's taking me a little longer. If I need to get it off to CGC, I try to do that as fast as possible, but I still have to wait to be able to get it from CGC to get it slabbed and then into an auction. If, however, I have to sit down and do group lots, I have 30 people. You have more than 30 people that you're dealing with. I've got collections coming out of my ears, and it's taking me a long time. So yes, very valuable books in the Copper Age, like an Amazing Spider-Man 129, Marvel Spotlight 5, anything that is high value. We can get those off to CGC pretty fast and back and then into an auction, and within 8 weeks of us getting that. The other stuff is taking a lot longer. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, and speaking of Copper Age, I always think of that as being in the 80s, and I think that in early 90s. And
I was thinking Bronze Age.
You think Bronze Age, yeah.
Sorry.
No, I was just going to say that I think that when it comes to that stuff, if you have that stuff and it's not that stuff you need to have, if it's from the 80s and 90s for the most part, you need to have that graded. Like it's not
Yeah.
really, you don't want to send,
Or a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1, you know, there's like only a handful of books from
Sorry,
that
I
era.
was thinking of Bronze Age for some reason. I read that Bronze
Yeah,
Age,
no,
but
I
it was
figured,
copper.
I figured that. And so, yeah, so I get a lot of calls from people saying, oh, I've got, you know, New Mutants number 87, I got this, I got that, I got Deadpool #1, you know, these things. And those are valuable books, they're important books, but, you know, generally speaking, when it comes from stuff that's, with very, very few exceptions, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle 1,
Right.
Books after 77, 76, there's very few of those that we would want to take, that we would take in raw, because you really almost, it's so many of them that have value like that, it's like 9.8 or bust.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, you'll have a $500 9.8 book, and it'll be a $120 9.6 book, or a $50.
Where it becomes not even worth having graded.
Right. So you got to be very, very careful about that. I apologize for misreading that. I for some reason I read that as Bronze Age and not copper.
I think we're having too good of a time here. We're
Running low on my battery, I know.
Yeah.
Any other questions out there for us?
Looks like we're done.
Yep. Just to reiterate, you know, our wheelhouse for comics is 1930s to 1960s. Yeah. And after that, we kind of start figuring out what we can and can't do. We can't take everything. It's impossible. We would literally never get anything done. It's a hard thing to say, but it's just how it is. There are a lot of books out there.
But if you've already had them graded and they're they're
very,
worth
very
$100, $150 or more, we'd be interested in taking those dollars.
Get a hold of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, guys, if there's nothing else, we really appreciate you joining in. As always, I'll be here in 2 weeks, unless I'm on a trip somewhere, which I don't think I will be in 2 weeks, but you never know. Xavier's winging his way. He should be back. Rick, thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it. Love having you.
Thanks for having me here.
I think I'm going to kick X out and just keep you here.
We need some more. We need the art guy here.
We need the art guy here. So we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you very much again. I am Brian Wiedman.
Rick Akers.
And we'll see you next time on the Gavel Strikes in 2 weeks.
See you.